Looking at our world from a theological perspective. This is the Theology Central Podcast, making theology central.
Good evening, everyone. It is Thursday, April the 20th, 2023. It is currently 9:01 p.m. Central Time, and I'm coming to you live from the Theology Central studio located right here in Abilene, Texas. Now, if I was to get up from this table here in the studio and walk around the table and walk directly down the stairs, open the door that will lead me right into the kitchen area of my home. I walk through the kitchen, kind of walk through / dining room, living room kind of area. I'll walk into a hallway. If I take a right and walk down the hallway, I will walk into what I typically refer to as the media room, right? Has my stereo equipment, has my television. And if I was to sit down on my couch, grab one of the controllers and start looking on my television, I'm going to see a number of streaming apps, right? Apple Television, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Peacock, Paramount Plus, Hulu, DirecTV Stream. There's so many. I don't know if I can remember all of them, but they're all right there. And each one offers thousands upon thousands of hours of content, television series, movies, documentaries. I've got live television. I've got on demand. I mean, it's just, there is so much. Just take the Netflix app. Just, I don't know if you use Netflix. I don't know which streaming service you use. So you just go to the streaming service you typically use. Think about how much content is there that in a roundabout way you're paying for because you're paying a monthly subscription, right? You're paying $10 a month, $15 a month, whatever you're paying, depending which television service. Think about all of the content that is available and think about how much of that content you actually watch, you actually access, that you even know is on the app on a monthly basis. Like, how much do you don't even know that it's there, right? You don't even know that it's on there. There's been times I've talked to someone about a television show and they'll be like, which app is that on? Or which streaming service? And I'll name it, and I'll like, oh wait, it's on that streaming service? I have that. I didn't even know it was available. They won't even know. So think about how much you don't even know is there, how much you don't watch. Now there's so much. And a lot of people will be like, oh, I couldn't find anything to watch. I'm like, you could not find anything to watch? There's 1 billion hours of content available right there. And I couldn't find anything. What do you mean you couldn't find anything? The thing is, you start looking and sometimes you just almost feel a sense of that you're just overwhelmed. There's just so much available that after all, you start, I dare I say, you start taking it for granted. You just kind of get so overwhelmed that there's so much that you say, never mind, just forget it. I can't find anything. Think about how much is available just in that context. Now, some of you are like, I do not watch television. Okay, we'll get to something that maybe you do use. But for those of you who use television, or forget television, maybe you're a music fan. Just think of a music streaming app, right? Just think of a music streaming app. How much is available? I cannot speak for you, but because as much as I love music, I feel that sense of being overwhelmed almost every single day. I'll open up whichever music streaming service I'm going to use, and it'll be like, there's just so much. And I'm like, what do I listen to? What do I listen to? What do I listen to? And at some point when I finally stop, I always feel somewhat frustrated. I'm like, well, I mean, I didn't listen to that album, and I listened to a couple of songs on that playlist. I didn't finish the playlist. And so I feel like, I'm not getting, there's all this here. What do I do? Same thing with podcast apps, right? I'll be like, oh man, I mean, there was like 1,000 new episodes today dropped on all of these podcasts. How many can I even listen to? My Kindle, how many books? There's so much available to us. And that leads to some problems. When I first walked up here this evening, I grabbed my journal and I just wrote at the top in pencil, how to benefit, ? And then I wrote these words: the more available, the less you benefit, enjoy, and appreciate. The more that is available to you, the less you benefit from it, the less you enjoy it, and the less you appreciate it. And then I wrote another line. Abundance decreases appreciation. Abundance decreases appreciation. Oh, you have to know that is true. Now, I don't know your age. I don't know what you grew up with or what you grew up without, but I'll just offer some examples from my own life. Some of you may remember this. Others of you are going to be like, wait, that's crazy. That sounds like you lived in some horrible, horrible movie that you finally escaped from. Okay, but no, this was reality. All right, do you remember this? Do you remember this? If you wanted to see a movie, you had to go to a movie theater, okay? Do you remember those days? Oh man, I want to see a movie. And so when you went to the movie theater, I mean, to be honest, it really didn't matter. I mean, because there was no bad movie, because it was this unique, special experience. You got dressed, you got in a car, you went. It was awesome. It was like, it didn't matter what the movie was. I mean, you found some reason to enjoy it, some reason to like it. You did very little complaining about it or saying it was boring because you didn't know the next time. It may be a month before you get to come back to the movies. It may be 2 months. Okay, someone says, I do not remember those days. It was, I mean, in some ways I loved it, right? Now for me, I went to the movies far more than most people because there was a theater on Butternut Street in Abilene, Texas. I get upset every day I drive past it. I know I shouldn't. Now it's a Salvation Army. That's where the Metro movie theater used to be. I am so glad that it's there to help people in need. I just wish they would have put the building somewhere else and preserved the Metro movie theater because it meant a lot to me. And here's what would happen. Every Friday night, sometimes Saturday night, the car would pull up right there at the curb at the Metro movie theater in Abilene, Texas on Butternut Street. And me and my brother would get out. We were little, like super little. And we would go in, and the women who owned and operated the theater, there were these two older ladies who had been working at that theater since like the 50s. And I guess they worked there and then they ultimately bought it and owned it, right? Well, my dad went to that theater when he was little, right? So they knew my dad. And so they just always like, we would walk in and they would be like, hey, and do you want, a hot dog? Do you want popcorn? Like, they're always super cool with us. And then we would me and my brother would, get our snacks, and then we would walk down and sit. And then every once in a while, one of the older ladies would come down just to make sure that we were okay. We were never acting up because, well, we knew that would be bad. So we watched, and it was 2 movies. It was 2 movies. And oh man, I didn't care what it was. Now, how it worked is my brother always fell asleep in the second one. Always fell asleep. I was always waiting. And now we were clearly not watching things that were appropriate for children that age to be watching. Trust me, we were not watching things that were kid approved by no means, because it did not matter what was showing. We got dropped off. It didn't matter what was in it. Didn't matter how many murders. Didn't matter how psychologically scarring. I mean, everything from The Exorcist to Jaws to you name it, Alien. You just go on and on and on and on and on. All the horror movies, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter what was in it. But no matter how bad or good, quote unquote, the movie, we never came out of it going, oh, no, because it was cool. Even though we went every week, it was still special. It was still special. And then, oh man, do you remember when all of a sudden, wait, you can go to a video store and rent movies? What is this? What world have we entered, right? You can just pick. You don't just have to see what's showing at the theater. You've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, and you would rent 5, 6, 7 movies, and I'd stay up all night and watch them. Every Tuesday at our video rental place was horror movie night every Tuesday, and you could rent 6 movies, 7 movies for like $3. And I'd stay up all night, go to school the next day without sleep. But it was, you appreciated it because you didn't have so much of it. It was limited. And the more that it was limited, the more you appreciated it, the more you enjoyed it, the less likely you were to complain about it. And you got the most out of it. I mean, I still remember those movies, like I remember them because it was such a special time. And then the next thing you know, television went from 3 or 4 channels to now you have 100 channels. And then the channels were on 24 hours a day. And then the next thing you know, you had videos. And then the next thing you know, you could have Netflix send the DVDs directly to your house. And then the next thing you know, you could start streaming. And the next thing you know, you had thousands and hundreds of thousands of things available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And little by little, now people are like, yeah, maybe I'll watch something. Yeah. You just take it for granted. You take it, how much is there that you're not benefiting from? Now, I've spent 10 minutes trying to articulate that, trying to explain that, because I think in a roundabout way, Christians, we've entered into that world in 2023, and I don't think we realize it. And just as I don't really know the solution and a roundabout way to get people to really appreciate, to really enjoy, to really benefit from all of that content, I mean, the only way is to really limit how much is available to you, like cancel all streaming services except one. And that's the only one you watch for one entire month. That's it. That's the only thing available to you. You'll probably start digging deep into the archives. You'll probably start going, whoa, well, I'm all the way to the letter Z. Okay, because that's all that would be available to you, right? But it's hard to do that because I can't find anything. Well, I'll subscribe to that one. Okay, I'll subscribe. And next thing you know, you've got 900 subscriptions. Okay, you know what I'm talking about, right? But Christians, we have the same situation. And I've talked about this so many times, and I'm yet to find a solution even for me. So let me try to explain from a Christian perspective. If we take the Edify Christian podcast app, I think they advertise over 2 million podcasts, all theological, biblical, Christian adjacent in some way, shape, or form. They're connected to Christianity in some way, shape, or form. They don't have like a statement of faith or anything that determines what's on there. But that's a lot that's just a lot to look through. I mean, there are so many podcasts there that it's hard to even process. That's just the Edify Christian podcast app. If you take the Sermons 2.0 app, once again, I think they advertise well over 2 million sermons. In fact, let me see here. I know they refer to it as the largest library of free sermons. Let me see if I can go to the original website. I don't want to go to the beta site. A library of 2,495,168 free sermons. 2,495,168 sermons available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I mean, come on. How many of those sermons are sitting there in that library? Like, nobody's ever going to find them. They probably got, I've gone searching and just kind of go deep diving, what you would call sometimes in music called crate diving, where you go look through the crates trying to find some, musical treasure that nobody has ever discovered, right? So I kind of call it sermon crate diving, right? Where I grab the Sermons 2.0 app or the sermon audio website and I'll just start digging. And I'm just looking and looking and looking. And I'll find some sermon and I'll start playing it and I'll look and I'll be like, only 13 people have heard this? Only 16 people? And then you're like, of all the millions of people who profess Christianity, only 13 people have found this sermon? I'm like, come on now. Like, how is that humanly possible? That can't be possible. But guess what? When you've got the Edify Christian podcast app, that's over a 2 million Christian podcast. You've got Sermons 2.0. That's over 2 million sermons. We won't even get into, let's see, I don't think I have numbers here. If I go to sermons.net, I got their app, sermon.net app. All right. If I'm opening up the sermon.net app, and right here, well, the sermons that are just popping up is Faith and the Duty of Forgiveness, Think It Not Strange, God Knows, Deliverance from Satan's Kingdom, The Fifth Trumpet, What's It Gonna Be, Part 2, How does the resurrection matter? The fifth trumpet. Binge the Bible season 1. Controlling Connie. I don't know what in the world that is. How do you want it to end? I mean, that's just all things that have been released in the last hour or so. That's just sermon. So now if I take sermons.net, the Edify Christian Podcast app, and Sermons 2.0, and I just take those 3 apps, forget everything else, right? I've got the BBN Christian Radio app, right? Well, they've got constant teaching made on demand. Like, forget the radio. They got all the on demand. Family radio, all the stuff on demand. Moody Radio. I mean, you go through all the different ministries. In Touch. Charles Stanley just recently died. If you go to the In Touch app, that's 24/7 Charles Stanley playing around the clock. J. Vernon McGee, his entire 5-year series through the Bible is available for you to listen to whenever you want. All of his Sunday sermons are available there. If we can go to Jack Hibbs from Calvary Chapel. He has an app. We've been talking about Sandals Church. Literally, there is so much available. There's no way to even put it into words. Now, when you have that many sermons, that many Christian podcasts, that many seminaries putting out their content for you to listen to, Bible colleges there are so many ministries putting out content 24/7. You're never going to, what do you do with it? One, you lose appreciation for it. Now, I can remember once again, and in some ways, this is, I guess, a good thing to have this perspective, but I can remember that, I want to hear Christian teaching. I want to hear preaching, right? I want to hear teaching. Well, okay, I would have to wait till, I think the first teaching, there was Derek Prince that came on in the morning on KGNZ 88.1 FM. That's the first Christian radio station I ever stumbled upon. KGNZ 88.1. And the morning, it was mainly music. I think they had Derek Prince, and then at around 11 or 12, they had Focus on the Family. And then it was around 3 p.m., I think, when they had Insight for Living with Chuck Swindoll. Now, that was major. Then there was another Christian radio station where I heard Chuck Smith and John MacArthur. So, but they came on. I mean, that was it. I mean, they played, and when it was over, it was over. You couldn't go back and listen to it. They couldn't subscribe to it. You just had to be sitting at the radio when it came on. So I became very good at making sure I had my stereo equipment ready, and when they came on, boom. Do you remember this? Hitting record on a cassette tape. So I had all these cassette tapes of all of these sermons and ministries recorded. Well, guess what? You know how much you would appreciate those? Because it was whoa, I got that recorded. Because if you wanted to hear a sermon, you had to wait until they came on the Christian radio station. You couldn't just listen to it, or you had to go to church. You had to literally go to church to hear a sermon. You would appreciate everything so much more. But today, I don't know. What do you do? What do you do? And I want you to think about, and this is really just me sitting in the studio on a Thursday evening thinking out loud. And I had this, and I've been having this thought and trying to figure these things out for a long time. It bothers me mainly first for me, because I know I lived in a time where I didn't have all this available. And so this happens to me so many times. It'll be, I'll finally decide to get in bed 1 a.m, 2 a.m, 3 a.m, whenever I finally decide to lay down. Or even if I decide not to go to bed, right? I decide not to go to bed. It'll be 2, 3 a.m, and I'll be either walking around the house or sitting here in the studio or sitting in the media room. And all of a sudden it'll hit me. Wait a minute. This whole day has passed. I haven't listened to anything. I haven't listened to any of the Christian podcasts I subscribe to. Haven't listened to any sermons. What am I doing? And then if I do lay down, sometimes I'll reach over and grab my iPad. I'm like, oh no. And sometimes, throughout the day, because one of the things I do love about podcasts is all the notifications. I like to make sure I love the podcast apps that give me the most up-to-date and constant notifications, because I just love seeing those notifications. Look, new content. But sometimes it will hit me. 90% of that I'm never going to listen to. 90% of that I'm never going to hear. I'm just not. I'm never going to listen to it. Never going to hear it. Never. Right now, I got 3 podcast notifications that just popped up while I was talking. Fox News hourly update, news from CBS Evening News, and a new episode from CBS Evening News. Three notifications all just dropped right at the same second from 3 different podcasting apps. And I probably won't get to any of that. And here in a little bit, there'll probably be more notifications. I could just sit here and read my notifications. But just how many Christian podcasts dropped today that I probably won't get to? How many sermons do you think? Have dropped? I'm using a music term that we use when talking about music. Oh, the new single dropped. How many sermons, let me state it this way, were uploaded today on the Sermons 2.0 app alone? How many? Now, if I go to the Sermons 2.0 app right now, and I just go to my feed, these are the things I subscribe to. Right now, let's say 28 minutes ago, Fairhaven Baptist Church and College uploaded a sermon called Holy Heartburn. That's from Fairhaven Baptist Church and College. Holy Heartburn. 1 hour ago, Thy Rod and Thy Staff radio program uploaded a message entitled, God Says, Humble Yourself. 1 hour ago, Grace Protestant Reformed Church uploaded a message entitled, A Heart That Does Not Afflict Willingly. Right? Also an hour ago from the same church, Grace Protestant Reformed Church, Confessing to Be a Stranger with God. Underneath that, another sermon uploaded 1 hour ago, Free Reformed Church of Grand Rapids, Abraham and Lot. Also an hour ago from Free Reformed Grace Church, The Sacrifices, from a series on Leviticus. Also from Free Reformed Church of Grand Rapids, 2 hours ago, Offering a Sacrifice. And I mean, I could sit here. Oh, wait, 4 hours ago, Theology Central did a message on temptation, part 8. Oh, yeah, that's me. Right. You say, well, why do you subscribe to yourself? Because I like to make sure it's showing up in the feed, and I got to make sure it sounds okay and it looks okay. All right. Then 5 hours ago, I could just go through that's just my feed. Those are just the things I follow. Now, if I go to the sermon audio site and I click on newest audio, I don't even know. There are so many here. Okay, look, just on page 1. These are the number of sermons that have been added in the last week. All right, are you ready? 6,540 sermons just in the last week. 6,540. There's just no way to process and gather all of this information. It's literally impossible. There's no way to funnel it. There's no way to it's like literally walking up to an ocean and looking around going, okay. And look, there's going to be a part of you is going to be like, I don't know what to do. What do I grab? What do I listen to? I don't know. And it can make you very like, well, this is not very good. I'll go listen to something. That's not very good. Because you just take it for granted. So I'm always thinking like, I wonder what I could do. I'm always thinking like, forget me. Like, I'm not even worried about my content. I hope you understand this. This is not about how to get my content out there. I died. I no longer count. This is just about how would you get that content to Christians in a meaningful way. If I had the ability, if I truly possessed the ability, I could probably do it in on the theologycentral.net blog. I could probably do this to some level, right? I probably could do it to some level, but I constantly think of a website kind of like the Drudge Report, where all he does is gather content from other news sources and just brings it to his page, where he just then puts links. He puts the headline, you click the link, it takes you somewhere else. Like if I had the ability, I would create a Christian Drudge Report, right? Where I just constantly like, oh, here's another, I would just monitor the world of Christian podcasting sermons and just grab them. And then, try to, the ones that I think are really good, promote at the top and just try to like, I don't know, like do something that way. For the Sermons 2.0 app, if you go to Sermon Audio, to their website, you'll notice that they have a radio function. I think even on the Sermons 2.0 app, it's there. Let me look really quick. If I go to the Sermons 2.0 app, and I click the menu radio, I can go to radio, and I can go Sermon Audio Radio Stream. Here we go.
His love, his mercy, his justice, his goodness, his kindness. His justice is just mercy.
All right, that's the Sermon Audio Radio Stream. Now you turn it on. There's just sermons playing. It's awesome. It's awesome. But even that, you can kind of go, well, I mean, you just jump in the middle and you just keep it on. You can do that, but you don't really have any rhyme or direction of what's coming at you or anything like that. You don't really. So some people may find that. I don't think a lot of people use the feature. Maybe more people do than I think. But I'm always thinking of like, how could you improve that? So I'll just throw out this crazy theory, this crazy idea. And just so that you know, what I'm talking about as the Christian world, this is not a problem related to the Christian world. This is a problem for every streaming service. They're constantly thinking, how do we work on discovery? Because here's what happens. If you don't help people discover new programs that they want to see, if you don't keep placing content in front of them that keeps them engaged in using that service, people will cancel. Right? So music streaming services are always like, how do we help with music discovery? Well, they create playlists. Right? Whatever. Evening relaxation, evening chill, summer night chill, whatever. They create all of the today's hits, whatever. They create these playlists so that, you have a certain mood. There's the playlist and that playlist becomes something you listen to all the time. They update it on a regular and consistent basis, which keeps you using that service because you love that playlist so much, right? Apple Music does 3 radio stations to keep you engaged by constantly playing new music and exposing you to new music and dropping new music. So it keeps people tuning in because you're discovering new music. So even the world is constantly like, we've got all of this content. How do we get this content to the people? So they're actually, because we're paying, remember, those streaming services are paying to have that content. If no one's using it, if no one's watching it, they're paying for something that's not being utilized, right? So in the Christian world, it's not so much that who cares, it's not being utilized. So it's a crime. It's a crime because someone could benefit from it. So I was thinking, let's just say, I'll just throw this out theoretically. Just imagine if, say the sermon, like if the sermon audio radio stream, can you imagine if just hear me out. I know you may think this is a crazy idea, but just hear me out. Can you imagine if the sermon audio radio stream had actual people hosting the radio stream, like a DJ, right? And then someone could come in and be like, all right, coming up for the next hour or two, we are going to play 5 sermons on temptation. And whoever's hosting it, they just pick random sermons from the archives of sermon audio of sermons that are about temptation. And they just pull them in and then they come in between each one. Okay, that one was from First Baptist Church, Oklahoma City. Coming up next, we're going to jump to, Detroit, Michigan, to First Presbyterian Church, and here's their sermon on temptation, or James 1 or Deuteronomy 8, whatever passage of scripture. And they play the 4 or 5, and then they're like, okay, you just heard 4 or 5 sermons on temptation. Next up, we're going to play 3 sermons that were just uploaded in the last hour We don't know what these are about. These are just random. Here are the titles. And then they come in between each one. In other words, they're grouping them together by topic, by theme, mixing it up, changing it up. It's live. Would that engage people discovering and utilizing all the content? I don't know if it would. I think it's probably a crazy idea, but I think to me, it would be awesome. I would love to host that, right? It would be great. Hey, coming up for the next hour, we're going to listen to 4 sermons. All right. 2 from the Old Testament, 2 from the New, right? And we're just going to randomly pick. I don't know where we're going to go, but we're going to see. First up, oh, look at this. We're in Jeremiah. Okay. The second one, look at this. We're in Hosea. All right. Oh, wait, we're in Jude. Wait, we're in Revelation. And okay, coming up and just like every kind of crazy idea you can come up with, right? 4 sermons on Psalm 1. All right. 4 sermons on the deity of Christ, 4 sermons on omniscience, just 3 sermons, 2 sermons. You can mix up the length, how many sermons, and I think it would engagement. And just forget Sermons 2.0 app. Just if there was just basically an online Christian radio stream, that's all they did. They had a team of people just constantly pulling content. Now, immediately what would happen is someone would be like, oh, I can't believe you played them. And oh, wait, their theology is wrong. And wait, no, but it would be trying to get access to all that is out there because so much of it is not utilized. Now, that requires someone to find a system. Drudge Report, if you don't know how famous Drudge Report is, I mean, it's super famous, and we could go through the history of how it became famous. But, it's just, you go there and he just pulls, the whole site is just headline, 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 headline from every news source you can imagine. He just gathers all the news from different sources and makes it available on one spot. Can you imagine if there was someone out there gathering all the Christian content out there and saying, here you go. Here you go. Here you go. Coming up next, here you go. Coming up next, here you go. Now, Christian radio does that, but they are obviously very selective on what they play, when they play it. It's only certain ministries. This would be like, we're going to town here. Here we go. And the good, the bad, the ugly. Now, some people would be like, well, you need someone to kind of offer their thoughts and opinions. I understand that. I mean, obviously, if I was the one hosting it, I'd be like, well, that sermon was trash. Okay. For the next 45 minutes, you're going to hear me review what we just heard. Okay. So I would be probably bad to be the host for that. But I just think that there's so much out there, and it's just kind of sad. Like, I just saw, I don't even remember what it was. I can't find the articles now. I thought I'd saved them, but there was a 2-part series on, I don't remember which Christian website, about how we're basically living in a time of spiritual famine. And I just think that that's complete garbage. We're not living in a time of spiritual famine. We're living in a time of drowning in spiritual content. Thousands of sermons are being uploaded per week. Thousands of Christian podcasts are being dropped every single week. Like we don't even know where to start. We don't know where to stop. We don't know where to begin. We don't even know what to choose. And so we ultimately just don't choose anything. So what can you do? Well, for me, I haven't figured out the secret yet. I know what I've been trying to do more of. Is whenever I'm studying something, like it doesn't matter what it is, like right now, Deuteronomy chapter 8, okay? We did a little bit of work on that today. So as soon as I got done, I went to Sermons 2.0 or the new sermonaudio.com beta site, and I typed in Deuteronomy chapter 8. And this popped up.
The Prince of Preachers. Charles Haddon Spurgeon has been called England's greatest contribution to the spread of the gospel in the 19th century. One of his contemporaries said that the chief secret of Spurgeon's attractiveness was the fact that in every sermon, no matter what the text or the occasion, he explained the way of salvation in simple terms. Spurgeon's messages remain one of the great treasure houses of Christian literature, still bringing the light of the gospel and the comfort of the Scriptures to hungry souls long after the preacher has passed into glory. This is Charles Kelsch inviting you to listen to a message from the Prince of Preachers. C.H. Spurgeon preached this message on November 10, 1861, in the Metropolitan Tabernacle. It is entitled, Bread for the Hungry. The text is found in Deuteronomy chapter 8 and verse 3. And he humbled thee, and suffered thee to hunger, and fed thee with manna, which thou knewest not, neither did thy fathers know, that he might make thee know that man doth not live by bread only, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of the Lord doth man live. This notable text shall teach us two lessons this morning. Its first utterance shall be concerning providence, and its second concerning the life of grace in the heart.
Now, right there, I just started listening. I stopped. I'm like, wow, Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 3 teaches us God's providence and grace in the heart. Okay, I wonder how which direction he's going to go. So at some point, I will listen to that. I'm trying to get better at doing that. Whatever I'm studying is to just go to the Sermons 2.0 app and type in either the topic, the theme, or the text. And whatever pops up, just start choosing 2, 3, 4 sermons on there. I mentioned it, I think, today for people to, pull up 4 or 5 sermons from Sermons 2.0 on James 1. Now, a lot of times when I try to get people to do that, most people, I think, just shrug their shoulders and like, why am I doing that? Why? I don't care to do that. But for me, there's an archive there. We'll call it the vault of over 2 million sermons. Like, it's just like, is it ever going to be, look, is it going to be used, or it just feels like it's just going to go to waste? Now, I know I've taken it for granted. I haven't appreciated how much is there. That doesn't even get me started on the sermons on sermon.net app, or if I go to the Edify Christian Podcast app. If I go to the Edify Christian Podcast app and I type in Deuteronomy chapter 8, immediately, here's what pops up. Deuteronomy 8 from Living Water Christian Fellowship a year ago. Deuteronomy 7 through 8, obedience. Deuteronomy 8 through 10, this is daily scripture reading. Here, Deuteronomy chapter 31, well, that's not going to help us. The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7 through 8, Calvary Chapel, Naples. Deuteronomy 8, Harvest Podcast, Deuteronomy 8, Reformed Baptist Church, Deuteronomy chapter 8, Veritas Church, Iowa City. And I can keep saying load more. Just on the Edify Christian Podcast app, I probably couldn't listen to them all in my life. I don't even know how many popped up on Sermons 2.0 app or the Sermon Audio website. There was a lot. One person, I said something about listening to sermons on James 1 or on temptation, and they sent me like a screenshot, and I think there was like 13,000 sermons on like Sermon Audio about that topic. I think it was 13,000. It was some crazy number. And I was like, that's unbelievable. Unbelievable. In other words, I could just spend my life listening to sermons on that one topic. So what I've tried to do is whenever let's say, look, I don't know how you do things. I don't know how you structure your Christian life. I think the problem is we have so much available to us. I don't know if anyone has a good structure. But let's say I reach down. See, do I have it right here? I got to reach down here. Okay. Feature, a daily Bible study guide. Let's say I open it up. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 1 through 4. All right. In fact, this is, they start here. Let me go back. All right, they start with 2 Corinthians 3, 1 through 18, 4 marks of a faithful Christian. That sounds interesting. Then they go 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 1 through 10, and then they break down. So they introduce the 4 marks of a faithful Christian in 2 Corinthians 3. Then they use 2 Corinthians 4 to tell us what those faithful marks are, what the marks of a faithful Christian really are. And then they break them down over the next couple of days in 2 Corinthians chapter 4. So if I'm doing this, and for like, say, a quick daily devotional or whatever, then guess what? Then I'm going to go, I'll pull up the Sermons 2.0 app. All right. So I will look at that, read that, do a little bit of work. I'll go grab the Sermons 2.0 app. I'll go to the little search function and I'll just type in 2 Corinthians 4, hitting the microphone. And then here we are. All right, the first thing that pops up is a plain preacher. And this is how it's done. This is the very first thing that pops up. The very first thing. If it will play.
It's a privilege to be speaking at what I imagine may well be the first William Perkins conference in the history of the Christian church.
All right. I don't know what a William Perkins conference is. Obviously, it may be the first one that's ever happened in the history of the Christian church. But it's from Puritan Reformed Theological Seminary. And the text is 2 Corinthians chapter 4. So already I found like, oh, I got to listen to that now. See, now I've got to go listen to that because I don't know what in the world that is. So, but that's how I'm trying to utilize it. Whatever it is. And I'm trying to do that with the Edify Christian Podcast app and sermons.net and Sermons 2.0. But, and then just grab one and then just listen to it. I would challenge you to try to use these resources that way, especially these apps that have like millions of sermons. Just whatever it is you're studying, whatever it is, it doesn't matter if it's a doctrine, it doesn't matter if it's a text, doesn't matter what it is. Just whatever it is, you just look it up there and go, whatever is first, just hit play. Whatever is first. Or sometimes what I'll do is because if I always pick the first one, then I feel like I'm missing the others, right? So what I've started doing is I'll go to the screen when they all pull up. I just kind of swipe up. And then wherever it stops, boom, that's what I hit. I close my eyes and just boom, and whatever it is. Now, guess what? There's days after days after days I don't do this. There's days after days I don't do this. But I think as Christians, we got to stop and ask ourselves, I just want you to think about this. We live in a day and age where you, the average Christian, has available to you. I want you to just try to wrap your mind around this. You have available to you as an average Christian, just in the palm of your hand with that phone, basically the entire history of Christianity, from commentary, church fathers, printed sermons, audio sermons, all available to you. You have more available to you as an average Christian in 2023, then you can take pretty much all the Christians who ever lived combined throughout church history. You say there's no way to completely accurately measure that, but just think of what little Christians had available to them throughout the history of Christianity. And then you are sitting there with a phone and you literally, a sermon on any subject, sermon after sermon after sermon, right there. That's a lecture from a seminary. I got a seminary lecture at some conference that I'm not familiar with. But guess what? After listening to it, I'll become familiar with it. You have every commentary. You have Greek and Hebrew tools. You have Bible dictionaries. You've got it all available to you. Christians today should be the most biblically, theologically sophisticated and literate people in the entire history of the church. You have more available to you as a lay person in 2023 than all of the pastors and seminary professors and church fathers had available to them in their entire lives combined. Yet the church You know why? Abundance destroys benefit and appreciation. And it destroys benefit. It destroys joy. It destroys appreciation. You take it for granted. You just take it for granted. We've got to find a way to utilize it. I mean, I wish, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I would love to try it one day. I would love to wake up at one, and I don't know how well, I don't know what the copyright laws are. I'm going to have to find out. I may have to ask someone on Sermon Audio. Like if I don't broadcast on Spreaker, if I just broadcast on the Church One Sermons 2.0 app and basically go live and try it for like all day, just basically be a Christian, I don't know what you would call it. It would be like a Sermons 2.0 radio hosted by Theology Central podcast. And I would be coming in and going, all right, guys, here we go. Are you ready? Today starts our live broadcast. We're going to kick off today with 3 sermons. Whatever my topics, however it would be almost like creating a little playlist. I don't know if I could do that legally. But I think I could because I'd be playing the sermons on the very platform where they're already hosted. I wouldn't be pulling those sermons out. I wouldn't be taking those sermons out and posting them anywhere. I would just be broadcasting on that platform. I may try it. I may email them and see if that's possible because I would just see it would be interesting if people would participate in it for a day to see, that would be a good idea. And actually, I think it's a trash idea, but I would love to do it. All right, coming up next. All right, in the last 15 minutes, these 2 sermons were just uploaded to the Sermons 2.0 app. Here we go. Boom, and hit play. And then what I could do is in between segments, I would have to you would want to break it up. Like if you could have some instrumental music, I'd have to find some instrumental music that I could buy that would be copyright acceptable, and then play that, and then come in and then maybe ask questions about the sermon that was just that. Oh, see, now and I'm going to get excited. Now I can come up with 100 ideas. I don't know if it would work. I don't know if it would be beneficial. I mean, I'm not even worried about my content. Not even worried about my content. This is not about self-promotion. It's about like, how in the world do we live in 2023 with more spiritual food available to us than at any time in the entire history of the church? And we seem to use so little of it. I'm always baffled when I look at any of the streaming services I use. I'm like, man. Like I'll search, like at the beginning of the month, Hulu, like sometimes there's these websites that will tell you all the new content added to Netflix, all the new content added, like coming up, it'll be May, all the new content coming to Hulu in May, all the new, and it'll tell you, and you'll look at that list and I'll be like, okay, I'm going to watch half of that coming up. And I won't even get close to it. And so then it'll be like, why am I paying money for this again? Like, what am I really getting out of this? Well, in the meantime, I sometimes walk around as a Christian going, what's my problem? Why do I take this all for granted? Now, I'm not even talking about this like some legalistic, like I have to do it to prove that I'm saved. I hope I've not used any of that kind of language. I'm saying it just like, how can Christians in some sense be in such poor shape when we have more available to us than we've ever had? I would love to get your ideas. Now, for me, I've told you what I try to do now is whatever the subject is that I'm going to, sometimes when I do a today's focus, whatever that subject is, immediately I go to Sermons 2.0 and start looking at random sermons. But I think people are picky. You know what? I think that's what happens. The more that's available, the more picky you become, right? I mean, come on, true? Look, have you ever walked into the kitchen? You have no car. Maybe you have no way to, and you just got like, you have no way to get any other food. And you look, and all of a sudden something that you probably would not have even bothered to eat ever. All of a sudden you're like, oh, I've got that. And you eat it and you're like, this is so good. It's only good because you don't have anything. But if you had 15 other things available, you'd be like, ugh. Someone even suggested, you're like, what do you think I am? A dog? I'm not eating that. But all of a sudden, no other options. You're like, this is gourmet. This is the greatest thing I've ever eaten. And so I just think we take it for granted. See, now I can click on a sermon like, nah, next. You can click on a show on Netflix, nah, next. Like, you're not even worried about it. Well, if you rented a movie, you didn't like, just stop it and take it back. You're like, man, I paid $2 for this rental. I may watch it twice. Okay. And I'm going to rewind it because I don't want to get an extra fee for rewinding. Okay, all right. All right, never mind. That's dated. All right. A can of beans, anything will work. Anything will work. But it's like, it's Thursday night. It's 9:52 p.m., right? At 11 p.m. on the music streaming apps, it's like new music day. All of a sudden, all this new music's just going to start showing up all over the app. Apple Music, primary one I use is boom, boom, boom. I just love watching it. It's like someone unlocking the door and I get to walk into the record store on New Music Day. And guess what? I can listen to anything. But you know what? I'll find I tried to never allow myself to do this, but I'll grab the first one, tap on it and hit play. And I may go, okay, let me go to another one. And I'll say, well, what am I doing? What am I doing? I'm not appreciating what's here. Because there would have been a time I would not have even had the opportunity to listen to it. I could have just walked through the record store and saw the cover, but I didn't have the money to buy it. Now I can actually listen to it. And what do? Well, not so good. I'll go to a next thing. Why am I acting like a spoiled brat? Like, enjoy it, experience it, then move on to the next thing. I don't know. I know that I've spent 51 minutes mainly just talking to myself, but I do wish that there was a way to help people get more. I just know that even if I do everything I can, right? I'm like, okay, hey guys, we're in the Bible study exercise. We worked on James 1. I gave you my very unique perspective on it. Hey, go to the Sermons 2.0 app, look up, do a search for James 1 and find 5, 3, 4 random sermons and just start listening and just contrast their perspective with my perspective. Go. You know how many, we could have 500 downloads. Guess how many people would probably participate in that exercise? 5, 10 people? Maybe. And it's nothing against those who don't participate. It's just, we're like, I don't want to listen to another sermon. And I understand why. Right? That Charles Haddon Spurgeon sermon on Deuteronomy 8, I definitely want to listen to it. That one that we just heard on 2 Corinthians 4 from some conference that I don't know what it is. All right. I got them now ready to listen to, but I'm probably going to go downstairs and do something else now. So now when I get ready to go to bed, but you know what I like to do when I go to bed? I love to listen to radio drama, classic radio dramas from the 30s, 40s, 50s. I love that. I mean, I eat that stuff up. I listen to, I can't even tell you how many of those I listen to. Well, wait a minute. I got all the news podcasts. Well, wait, I got Coast to Coast AM. Wait. Oh man, what do I listen to? And guess what will happen? Good chance none of those sermons will get listened to. Now, I'm not saying that means I'm not saved. See, I'm not coming at it from that approach. I'm not saying that doesn't mean I don't love God. It just means that we've got to realize the spiritual abundance that's been handed to us and how we do a lot of whatever and walk right on by it. Tell me what you think. And I am going to try to talk to Sermon Audio to see if I would be allowed to do that. Because I would love to try it just to see what it would be like. Just to see what it would be like. If we could do it in a way that would be engaging, fun, like fun, engaging, interesting, I think we could do it. I would have to dedicate I would have to dedicate a whole day and basically night to do it. I mean, I would have to just basically I don't know if I think I could go from 8 in the morning. I think I could probably almost pull off 24 hours. I possibly could probably pull off 24 hours of broadcasting. But I think it would be, maybe we can try it. We'll see what people think. If Sermon Audio would say, well, you're not violating any copyright because you're playing it on our platform. You're not uploading it as a podcast, so it's not going anywhere. So yeah, you're just broadcasting it on our airwaves. And you're not criticizing it. You're not analyzing it. Go for it. If they give me the approval, then I think I'm going to hype it up, and then I'm going to wake up early one morning, get up here and just go, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Theology Central brings to you Sermons 2.0 Radio live. I don't know what we'll call it. And then we'll play the sermon, hopefully some kind of instrumental break, like instrumental music, hymn, something along that I pay for, that I get the rights to. Maybe 1 or 2 of those, and then come in and go, we just listened to a sermon. Here are 4 questions about that sermon, right? And just so that you remember it, okay? Then maybe read the text again and go, okay, now are you ready? Right? Take a deep breath. Here we go. Now, coming up next is the next sermon in this thematic block. And I think it would be awesome to do that. I think it would be awesome. But maybe what I think is awesome, everyone else is going, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard in the history of humankind. I do have stupid ideas. I'm very aware of that. All right. newsif@yahoo.com. newsif@yahoo.com. That's newsif@yahoo.com. Everyone have a wonderful, 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 wonderful night. And hey, grab the Sermons 2.0 app and just pick up Deuteronomy 8. Just look up random sermons on Deuteronomy 8. All right. Do that tonight, especially if you're participating in our Bible study exercise. All right. Thanks for listening. Sorry if I wasted your time. I wasn't trying to, but yeah, we got to do something about. I'm tired of seeing articles that we are living in a spiritual famine. That's not true. If this is a spiritual famine, I would hate to see what a famine looks like. All right. Thanks for listening. God bless.